Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on a Saturday morning. Hopefully, you've got a cup of coffee and you've settled in for a rollicking good fun. My coworker, John Narodka, is with us today. John will serve as our contest chair. I am very happy to serve as your chief judge, and as many of you already know, I'm the district contest manager. So we're going to pepper today with many comments about running efficient, entertaining, enjoyable, and successful contest. Let me share my screen. I want to show you a checklist of activities. This is just a reminder for people who are involved in contest management. This checklist comes from the contest management template that we are sharing with all of our area directors and our district division directors. So here we go. So this is a plain, simple, plain Jane checklist. But what I want to highlight is that each item in the checklist has been assigned a category and a person who is responsible. Now, in our checklist, as we know, people who are involved in putting together contests of any type, you may make changes to these assignments, and it's all hands on deck when you're planning a contest. So take it lightly that it says that the contest chair is going to print award certificates. That may not happen, but these are things I want you to be thinking about. So before we even get to the venue for the day of the contest, these are the things I want you to remember. One, you must have a venue and a contest date. That is going on now. If you are part of a division or an area and you don't have those venues identified and those dates scheduled with the venue, you need to do that now. I urge you that by the end of December, we need to have all of those in place, because that takes a huge amount of stress off of the contest cycle. You will also need to think about catering, what you're going to do, time of the day. If your division or area is involved in press releases and working with our district level PR people, you need to think about who's going to take charge of that to get that information out and up on Facebook, Meetup, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever we are posting our socials these days. We're all driving hard to get publicity for DM83. There are many other things. I will be working with each of our contest people, each of our managers, on how we're doing awards and trophies and printing. We will be publishing the final version of the official District 83 contest program and the official District 83 contest script for both the international contest and for the Tall Tales contest. And we will provide scripts for the official contest briefing for the contestants and also the contest briefing for the judges. So this is a checklist. I'm not going to read you everything, but notice that the contest chair has a lot of activities revolving around managing and taking care of our contestants. There are forms that must be completed by each contestant. The contest chair generally will work with their division or area director on checking contestant eligibility. This is super important. It keeps our contest on a level playing field, meaning that every contestant has an equal opportunity to succeed at the contest. We also have to look at eligibility with the judges. Now, we've kind of put that on the list for the chief judge. Oh, by the way, right at the top of the list, as soon as you have your venues and dates, you need to start naming your chief judge and your contest chair, because they are, as you can see in my checklist, intimately involved in getting that contest organized. Communication, communication, communication. I cannot stress enough. We are urging, I will, by the end of this probably coming week, we will start to have all of the proper contest resources listed on the tm83.org website, because we'll be working with the webmaster to make sure that they are up to date and that anything you need to distribute to either a contestant or a chief judge, any form that you need to use in the process of conducting your contest, you will simply go to TM83 and download it. So I want to lessen the anxiety and the stress of trying to create emails and attach forms to emails. You should be able to tell your contest volunteers, TM83, here's the page, here's the link, download that. Okay, we have a great website. Let's use the great website. So reminders of things you're going to bring to the venue. And I want you to imagine that today we are hosting Area X, and everyone who is participating in today's contest is in the room. We have included a sign-in sheet because you've got to have that minimum number of participants so you are adequately eligible for reimbursement for your cost. We have all the judges' paperwork assembled, and we are presenting that to the judges in the room. That includes timer forms, ballot forms, tiebreaker forms, and just anything, a rule book. You need to have a rule book on site just in case there's something you have to look at. You need the results form so you can prepare that. And the judges and the sergeant of arms, not the judges, the contest chairs and the sergeant of arms are also responsible for setting up the room and making certain that everything is in its place. I'm not going to belabor this. I really want to get to the contest. So contest chair, all of our contestants are present, except we have one who has notified me just now. Her name is Genesis. Genesis Brown is not going to make the contest at all. She's tied up and just simply can't do it. And we've already dealt with one judge who was running late, but we've replaced that judge. So those are the things you need to know. Contest chair, I turn this back over to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so with that, we are on your agendas that everybody received. You will see Genesis Brown listed as the third speaker. As noted, she will not be attending, so please just cross that off if you feel like it, or just ignore her name there. But welcome to our contest for Area X. We're going to be doing today the International Speech Contest. I am John Naratka, your contest chair, and your host for this morning. Before we start, let's have a couple ground rules. Now, normally, just a quick aside, normally the area district contests and division contests will all be done in person. If you're doing a video contest, there is a different script for that, and that's the one I'm using today just because we are video. But the housekeeping rules have a couple extra things in it. But the housekeeping rules, it's been confirmed that all contestants are eligible to participate in today's contest in accordance with the eligibility requirements set forth in the Toastmasters rulebook. All audience members should have their cameras off and audio on mute during the contest. Chat and reaction features will be disabled by the Zoom master. Please refrain from any photography of the contestants during the contest. That's definitely an in-person one. And once the contest has begun, no one will be allowed to enter until the contestant has completed their speech. The order of the contestants was determined before the start of the contest and is as follows. Our first speaker will be Glenn DeCruz. Our second speaker, Charlie Stark. Our third speaker, Mitch Mustard. And our fourth speaker, Sandra Edwards. With that all in place, I would like to now turn it over to our Chief Judge, Sarah Magletti, who will provide an overview of the rules for the International Speech Contest. Sarah?
Thank you, Contest Chair John. Okay, at this point, there is a script, and the Chief Judge would go through the details of the rules of the contest. So for those of you who are organizing a contest for the first time, I am not going to read that set of rules today. We're going to keep this simple. But normally, the Chief Judge takes the front of the room and does a very quick rundown of the general rules for the contest. There are rules that are different for the international competition compared to the Tall Tales competition, namely the timing. And we also, at that point, the Chief Judge would call for a demonstration of the timing cards by the timer number 1. So all of this has been identified before the contest starts, and it will be included in your script, so there's no worries. I will just throw out an added tidbit. If any of you are involved in contest management and serving as either the Chief Judge or the contest chair for the very first time, please reach out and contact with me, and I will make sure that you are fully equipped with everything that you need to know. We'll do this together, and you'll have an amazing contest. For today, Katie and Grant has agreed to serve as our timer. So let's just demonstrate the timing so that you get a sense of how this would work. So in the International Speech Contest, which is the contest we are hosting today, speakers will present a 5 to 7 minute presentation. The minimum speaking time is 5 minutes. At that point, we will see the green card. Timer, could you show us the green card? Okay, that will show in the background in the virtual setting. In the in-person setting, there will be a physical green card. And that timer, we seat or position the timer right up front in the front row so that the speaker has an unobstructed view of the timer. So the minimum speaking time is 5 minutes, at which we will see a green. At 6 minutes, the timer will flash the yellow card. Kadian, please show us the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, the timer will show us the red card. Kadian? And the red card. The red card will appear at 7 minutes, and no further communication will occur notifying the speaker that they are out of time. There is a 30-second grace period beyond the 7 minute mark. So the minute the speaker hits 7 minutes, 31 seconds, the speaker will be considered disqualified. No further communication will be given telling the speaker anything about their time, and judges will not take timing into consideration. So for those of you in contest management, what happens is the Chief Judge goes to the timer table at the end of the contest and collects the timer's scorecard. Because there are 2 timers, we do that so that we have a double check on the time should we have any questions. The timers simply hand over their score sheet, and the Chief Judge in the counting room will note if there are any time disqualifications. That is all I have to say about the rules of the competition. Back to you, contest chair.
Hey, thank you very much, Sarah. Now, time to start our contest. So I'd like to introduce our first contestant. Glenn, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Is your video situated to your satisfaction?
Yes.
Okay. And you know where the timer is and pin the timer for so that you can see her, correct?
I have Katie, yes.
Okay. Okay. Our first speaker, Glenda Cruz. Embrace the future. The future is AI. Embrace the future. The future is AI. Glenda Cruz.
Thank you, Contest Chair. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. Let's go way back in time. November 2022. In the computer world, that is way back in time. My son sends me a message. Hey, Dad, check this out. It was a link to something called ChatGPT. I opened it, typed a few questions, and thought, this kind of looks like Siri with better manners. Okay. I did the dad thing. I told him it is interesting, and I promptly forgot about it. But he did not. A week later, he calls me. Dad, you're not getting it. This thing can do my job. My son worked as a TA in college, and he took every problem he had graded over the last year, fed them into ChatGPT, and it answered every single one of them correct. Now that caught my attention. I decided to ask around. I asked my friends, I asked my colleagues, I asked my wife. Some laughed, most shrugged, a few rolled their eyes. It was clear they were not taking it very seriously. I was curious. I signed up for courses, did some research, even gave a Toastmasters speech on AI. But if I'm honest, I did not take it seriously either. Fast forward to November 2025. AI is moving upstream. It has gone from science fiction to science fact. Today, we use AI to check our work, to rewrite our emails, and create targeted messages. We can create images, voices, videos, personalized training, all of that instantly. Even at Toastmasters, some of us use AI to brainstorm ideas, refine outlines, practice delivery. AI today has turned into a good assistant. But there are concerns. Will my work change? How do I identify fake images, fake voices? Valid concerns. But the good news is we've managed change before, and we can manage it again. AI is just another change that needs to be managed. How do you manage it? I'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's face the elephant in the room. Will some jobs disappear? Short answer, yes, they will. But here again, we can learn from the past. When email was introduced, jobs like the office mail clerk, secretarial pools, and clerical jobs simply disappeared. But they were replaced with better jobs like project managers and analysts and digital creators. The same will happen with AI. The lower level jobs will go away and you would have AI ethicists, data annotators, prompt engineers. There will be new roles that take its place. So how do we take advantage of these new jobs? I want to share 3 simple things with you that you can do to manage this change and transition AI. Number 1, get curious. AI truly levels the playing field. You do not need a PhD or even a degree to use it. If you can articulate your thoughts, you're a Toastmaster. You can use AI. How do you do this? Open an AI tool, something like ChatGPT, Gemini, ask it questions. In the AI world, these questions are called prompts, and the people who write them are prompt engineers. These are the new programmers, the people who know how to interact with AI. I spoke about new jobs that AI will generate. Well, prompt engineer is one of those jobs. Now, all social media platforms, they also have built-in tools for AI. Give it a try. Remember, curiosity is the new literacy. Number 2, build AI skills by experimenting. Once you've played with AI and asked some questions, try a few follow-up questions. Want a second opinion? That's easy. Ask the same question to multiple programs. See if they give you the same answer. There are programs for research, for image generation, for voice cloning. Yeah, that's how the scammers work. But you can use that to get familiar with them and to know what it's like. These are not futuristic technologies. They're today's tools, and they're your tools to experiment with. So get comfortable with it. And thirdly, now that you have the tools, you're using AI, you're experimenting. Now it's time to use it in your world. Now, this takes a little self-examination. You have to understand the value you provide to your organization and how AI can improve that productivity. Some suggestions. If you're in sales or customer service, you have AI tools today that provide real-time feedback to help you close a sale or to respond to a customer. Marketing, advertising, there's AI to shape your narrative. IT, of course, there's code generation. The list goes on. But I want you to try one. Now that you have these tools, it's time to do your icebreaker. When you join Toastmasters, you do an icebreaker. Well, I'd like you to do an AI icebreaker. Maybe it's something like creating your holiday card this year or automating a spreadsheet, but do something that has a finished product that you can claim is your own. So once again, I ask my friends, what do you think of AI? This year, the answer is very different. There are still a few who say, nonsense, it will turn out to be hype, like Bitcoin. But for the most part, people are now serious about AI. They believe it will continue to grow and continue to be a partner. If my son were to ask me the same question again today, I would tell him, be curious, experiment, and use AI to amplify your strengths. And on those days when your fear starts to get to you, remember, it's a partner. It's not going to replace you. You can build what you want by using it. So my fellow Toastmasters, I ask you, what will the next 3 years look like? What will 2028 be for you? What will you build in 2028? Contest chair.
Okay, thank you. We will now have a minute of silence for the judges to fill out their ballots. Timer, if you can add 1 minute to the clock.
It's 1 minute.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Charlie, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And your video is set to your satisfaction, and you've the timer pinned and located, or located and pinned.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and you're ready to go, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Our next speaker, Charlie Stark, holding leaders and organizations accountable. Holding leaders and organizations accountable, Charlie Stark.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Today, I want to talk to you about holding leaders and organizations accountable. Specifically, our organization, and specifically members within our organization. I want to tell you that one thing I experienced was how accountability is essential for trust, fairness, and effective service. Leaders and organizations directly impact the people they serve. And I want to talk about some examples or issues within the organizations and specifically our organization. I joined Toastmasters in June of 2023, roughly. I think it was June of 2023. And as I had joined the club, I joined Summit Toastmasters. I had met quite a few people, and I established great relationships with people in the club. And I'm a little hesitant to speak out because I've experienced certain misinformation and biases, and I am not here to preach. I'm not here to tell people what to do, but I want to just make folks accountable and make sure that we hold our organization accountable. Toastmasters, when I joined Toastmasters, I thought the club was inclusive. I thought that people would be welcome when joining. I initially joined the club and I had joined as a member. When I joined as a member, I had met fellow officers and I helped recruit. I became a vice president of membership and I enjoyed the interactions that I had, but I started to feel excluded and I felt certain biases and I felt like there was failure to serve by certain members and there was exclusion based on bias and misinformation or blocked access. I was at the time also laid off from my job in an organization in February of 2022, and I continued to invest time in Toastmasters to build relationships and connections and network. I was excluded from certain events based on my marital status from several officers within my club. I had officers recommend that I relocate to another club based on my marital status and assumed orientation. And I also was told by other officers that I was a grandpa or that I was too old for the club and that I would be welcomed at another club in a different state. Toastmasters, this is misconduct and it needs to be addressed. We cannot have fellow officers treat each other this way. We need to hold our organization accountable. And I really want to emphasize the need for transparency and corrective action for those officers who have violated our policies and procedures. It should not go unnoticed, and we should not let leaders fail in their roles. We want to support and include people in our club. And as I said, I've been hesitant to speak out, and I want to know what channels I need to go through to report such misconduct. We should recognize the harm. Unethical behavior erodes trust and harms individuals emotionally and financially. I can feel as though I wasn't included in certain activities. And like I said, I don't want anyone to experience what I had experienced because certain information was withheld about meetings, certain times, certain events. And this prevented me from growing within the organization. We need to provide neutral and unbiased views towards one another. We need to be welcoming and inclusive towards one another. No matter background, age, marital status, orientation, we need to be inclusive of everyone. Accountability matters. Why? We need to ensure leaders meet their responsibilities. We cannot exclude people. We cannot allow misconduct, even from fellow officers in our clubs who demonstrate misconduct. We need to create a safe environment and include others, no matter where they came from, whether they came from a different state, whether they have a different marital status. We need to prevent misconduct from becoming systemic in our clubs. I don't know how many of you felt you've experienced misconduct, but when we see it and we witness it, we must report it. How many of you encountered misconduct and how many of you did not do anything in the moment? This should not happen, and it will not happen, and I will ensure it will not happen. We should report issues through proper channels, and we should promote transparency of policies, especially when our officers violate those policies. And we should encourage people to speak up without fear of retaliation, as I experienced it. We should request audits and oversight when needed in our clubs and organizations. And I want to specifically talk about the role of the community. Collective voices drive change. We want to be unified. My goal is not here to divide one camp from the other camp, but I want our clubs to be unified and in sync and together. I want to support those facing exclusions within our clubs and not allow exclusion to happen because it prevents people from growing. I call for leadership changes when necessary. If an officer is not performing, we must replace them. I want to conclude with saying accountability protects everyone, and I encourage the audience to advocate for fairness and transparency within these clubs. Thank you, Toastmasters.
Okay, thank you. Audience, we will have a minute of silence for the judges to fill out their ballots. Timer, please put 1 minute on the clock.
One minute.
Thank you, Katie. I'm going to put my trainer's hat back on just for a second. At this point, we would normally introduce our next contestant. However, since our next two contestants are imaginary, for the training purposes, I'm just going to introduce them, then say a minute of silence, introduce the second one, to make sure everybody's aware of the proper method for introducing candidates, which is by their name, speech title, and name. Nothing else, just those 4 pieces. Back to contest. Our next speaker will be Mitch. Mitch, are you all ready? All that stuff. Okay, Mitch Mustard. Who doesn't love hot dogs? Who doesn't love hot dogs? Mitch Mustard. That a speech. Now we'll have a minute of silence. Okay, we'll introduce the next candidate. And the reason I'm doing this, one is for training. Second is because I like the names that were come up with for the speech titles. Our next contestant, Sandra Edwards. Woodstock Vibes. Woodstock Vibes. Sandra Edwards. Okay, now we go to a minute of silence. Okay, the audience will now remain silent for the judges to complete their ballots for everybody. And then Sarah, let me know when you're ready to go at this point.
Okay, so in the room, what now would proceed is that my ballot counters, today we did not assign ballot counters, but the ballot counters in the actual room would watch for the judges to hold up their ballot. And we try to do that as discreetly as possible so as not to draw attention to the judges. So you just have to try and be practical. Let's talk just for a second about placement of judges within the room. The tip that I love came from Sue Brooks, and it was that if the judges could sit at the ends of a row, then we don't have to wiggle our way into the row in order to collect a ballot, and no one has to pass a ballot down the row. So ideally, judges would be seated at the ends of a row. It is also very helpful at the contest if the ballot counters know who the judges are and meet them so that this is a team effort of preserving the anonymous status of all of the judges, but still collecting the ballots in an official way. One thing that everyone needs to know, and these are tips for the judges, I highly recommend, if you are serving as a judge, that you complete the bottom portion of your ballot with your signature and your printed name before the contest starts. It just simply speeds up your ability to complete a scorecard and tear off the bottom and fold it and hand it to the counter. Now, to have a valid ballot, it must be signed. And you must indicate in the correct order a first place, a second place, and a third place. Judges can use the contest program for the correct spelling of the names. That's important. Occasionally, we have contestants with very similar, if not identical, names. So I've seen contests where there's 3 Edwards. Well, you don't want to confuse which Edward you are citing. So it's very important that you fill out that ballot completely. If the ballot is not signed, the chief judge will have to toss that ballot. Now, one tip that came up during judges training on Monday was that the ballot counter can actually peek to check for the signature. And if the ballot counter is still in the room, they have not retreated to the counting area, the ballot counter can say, "Judge, please sign your ballot." And that will prevent us from having to toss an invalid ballot. Now, today, judge number 4 has already given me a ballot with no signature. I didn't know that. And now I'm ready to go count. So I'm going to invalidate judge number 4 altogether. That means we will have 3 judges plus 1 additional judge plus a secret tiebreaker judge in the counting room. Webmaster, or actually Zoom Master, could you move me and the 3 judges to the counting room? And I'll turn this back to contest chair John, who will sing and dance for the couple of minutes that we need.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but I'm not really a good singer or dancer. So, in any case, at this point, depending on how long the contest is, the number of contestants, are you going to have other contests? For example, in some cases, there'll be multiple areas having a contest on the same day. If there are, you would do each area individually, and at a certain point, you may want to take an intermission to give people a chance to use the restrooms, get a drink or something along that lines, just to break it up and give them a chance to relax a little bit before you jump into the next section. Once the ballot counters, the judges, and the chief judge go off into the other room to do their counting, that is when we have the contestant interviews. Now, a few notes on the contestant interviews. When you're recruiting an interviewer, recruit somebody that has a good personality, can speak well with people, and make sure that they know that there's a limited time. You don't want to get to a point where somebody gets into a interview and gets so engrossed in it that it keeps on going and it doesn't give everybody an equal shot. So you want to look to have a couple basic questions. All of the contestants would have filled out an interest sheet that'll give some idea of some of the things they're interested in, maybe favorite books, maybe hobbies, to give the interviewers some chance to come up with a couple questions. In general, you're going to ask the interviewer will ask the contestant what club they're representing, how long they've been a Toastmaster, and then one or two questions based on that interest sheet. Now, you don't want to take more than about 2 minutes with each contestant. And of course, that depends on the number of contestants you have. If you only have one or two contestants, you may only get a chance for one question. If you have a number of contestants there may be a little bit longer, but still you want to stay within that 2 minute time frame, give or take, uh, per question, and no more than one or two per candidate. If you need more time, you can always go back and ask another question. But that's one thing you don't want to belabor, because you do want to give each of the candidates an equal time for their questions, for the chance to have their moment in the sun. Now, we know some people are not as comfortable in front of speaking, and that's one of the reasons they joined Toastmasters. So you have to play each off by ear. Let's see. A couple other points. So on the agenda that I did send in the chat, this is just a sample of the general agenda that we're going to be recommending everybody use. If you did have multiple contests on the same day, that might be a good place to put the intermission, say in between the international speech and the Tall Tales contest. And again, that intermission period, it typically is like 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long. You have to play it by ear. It depends on how much time you have. If all of a sudden, for example, you have 10 or 12 contestants, well, maybe you need a 5 minute break. But at the same time, if you have two or three contests in the same day, you don't want to make it a longer break because you want to get out of there at some reasonable time. For example, this training we have set to go from 9 a.m. to 10:30. You want to stay within your published timelines. It is a very important thing to keep on time. As we know, we have timers for every meeting. And that's one of the things, is to make sure that people can stay within time. Just trying to think if there's anything else we have to do here. I'm not sure how long Sarah's going to be out there.
John, I know sometimes we make announcements. Do we do that at the end of the contest or during?
Well, yeah, okay. So announcements can be done at this point as well. And actually, it's probably a good time. So yeah, so for example, on our sample agenda, we do have the District 83 news. So depending on who you are, if it's an area contest and the area director is available, or a division contest and the division director is available, you may call them up to give announcements about what's going on. Maybe there's other trainings, maybe there's special sessions, maybe the officer trainings are coming up, or whatever the case is. If it's the district and the district director is available, well, Pamela always can give announcements as well. But it doesn't have to be the director either. It could be any suitable official that happens to be present. It could be the contest chair that does it if there are no um, higher level people. So, but the contest chair is a very, as we mentioned earlier, they're a very important role. Uh, they're the MC for the contest. They're trying to keep people going while we're waiting. At
And
this,
does anyone have any questions?
yeah, that was going to be my next thing.
Hi, I do have a question regarding the timing cards.
Sure.
What do you which I've seen the ones that fold, well, the small ones, but also the bigger ones. Which do you prefer at a contest?
I would think it just should be something that's clearly visible. Um, Probably like half a sheet of paper size would be more than adequate. But the our timer should be sitting right in the front row, clearly visible. And if they have something that's say 4 by 6, um, that would be like a perfect size because they could just hold that up right in front and the contestant can easily see that.
Okay, thank you.
But whatever you have, I mean, it could also be a file folder. Some I've seen people use file folders, but at the area and yeah, so Sue just put in the chat that she used file folders in red, yellow, and green. So
Okay, 'cause I usually use copy paper in those same colors. So I
yeah,
was just wondering
so,
if that's okay. All right.
and a lot of times it comes down to what's available because you may be at a location, somebody forgot to bring the uh, usual cards that they had for their club or whatever, and you're just scrambling. I've seen people use pencils and other other things, but at this level, you want to make sure that you have something big enough so that there's no mistaking things.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and oh, that's a good one, Sue. In a diner, use relish mustard and ketchup. So be creative. That's probably the best thing. Mike, you have a question.
Yes, I do. I had a question about when you have two area contests being held at the same time, and Sue Brooks gave me a lot of good advice on that. And I was just had a few other questions. Is it best just to really have two distinct contests, like you just have the first one for the first 2 hours, and then you have a break, and then you go into the next contest with everything, or do you do all of the judging, the judges and speakers briefing initially, or do you have to do those twice? I mean, what is the best way to have two areas have their contest in the same venue on the same day?
Now, are they cooperating with the same judges and everything else?
I think that was the idea, was to share the judges, share the ballot
Okay.
counters, share the timers.
Okay. So, Pamela, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my from my experience, we've done it where the briefing is done ahead of time for the judges. If they're common, it's still a common briefing. For the contestants, each group would have their own, there may be a common briefing, but each group would be have their selection order done at their briefing. And then as you do the contests, you would do, say, the international speech for Area 1. And then once that completes, you say, okay, that's the end of Area 1's contest. Now you go to Area 2. You could do the collections and everything well, you would do the collections at the end of each of the contests. Um, I think it's been a while since I've done a multi-contest.
All
Pam,
right, I can jump in here, but yes,
thank you.
if you're combining the area contests for efficiency purposes, obviously you're sharing resources, which makes sense because it takes a nice amount of people to organize a contest to begin with. So if you only have an area that has one club, it makes more sense to combine with another area so that you have more people for these 18 people that you recruited to run the contest to work with. So that's the whole purpose of doing a combine. However, every area is treated independently as far as the contest. For briefings, yes, you can combine them all because they're going to get the same message. So why not just
Okay.
do it all at the same time? You just have to know that when you do the contestant briefing and you're doing the order, you would say, okay, area X, we're going to do your order, and area Y, we're going to do your order. You can just separate it that way. But as far as the briefing information, how the contest is going to work, it's going to be the same for both. So combine them. All the judges are going to be the same judges. Contestants, you'll have contestants from different areas, but the rules are still the same.
Okay. So
The-
do you announce the winners at the very end for everybody, or do you just
you
conclude
announce
the
the
area
winner.
first and then
You
go on to the
announce
next one?
Yes, you announce the winners at the very end. So the way the contest should run, if you have two areas, you would complete one area first. So right now, this season, we're doing international and tall tales. So for area X, you're going to do their international, collect the ballots, going to do the tall tales, collect the ballots. That now completes the contest for area X. You probably might want to take a break at that point and then start area Y, do
Okay.
their contest, collect the ballots, do their contest, collect the ballots. And at the very end, that's when you will announce for area X, the
Everybody.
blah, blah, blah.
Okay. That
That
makes
makes
sense. Thanks.
sense? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Ravi,
Yeah,
thank you.
hi, John. The question is about the order of the speeches. There's a published order. I'm not sure if it's randomized. I once was in a contest where somebody said, I'd like to go first because I have something to do. Is that fair? Is that allowed? What is the procedure?
I would say no. So in general, during the contest, the contestant briefing, there is a session where the contest chair will do a randomized choice. So I've seen it done a number of ways. For virtual contests, I've seen them use a random number generator or something like that. Or if it's in a physical, you're in person, maybe it's by pulling a card, who high card goes first, and down the line, or dice rolls or things like that. And you go until you have a distinct order. Um, the reason for that is while well, personal opinion reason for that, let me put it that way. There can be a minor order bias, I'll call it that if you're going first, versus going in the middle, the judges may remember more about what they hear from the first judge or the first contestant or the last contestant as opposed to those in the middle, for one thing. Second, to counteract that, it is always a good idea and to encourage your judges to take notes during the different speeches so that as they're going through and finishing their ballot, they can compare notes from the different speakers to make sure that they're evaluating everybody on a completely fair basis. I hope that answers your question.
So once the order is decided, and that might be before the contest or before the event itself, you will
Yeah,
stick to the order. Okay.
yeah. So the speaking order is determined at the contestant briefing.
Okay. Thank you.
It's important to remember as well that once that speaking order is chosen and the contest actually starts, if a contestant is not present at the contest in time, when it starts, technically they are knocked out of the contest. You can't show up a half an hour into it because you're going to be the last speaker. So you don't, you figure, oh, I don't need to be there. So it's very important that you remind contestants of that as well.
Very good point.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, sorry, you're back.
I am back. So if we are resuming now, the chief judge would return from the counting room, and hopefully the contestants are still being interviewed, or we're returning from a break. However, it is working in your contest, but the contest chair would then proceed to usually announcements and also our final results. Before we go there, I want to show you exactly what happens in the counting room. So after the ballot counters collect the ballots and the chief judge and the counters move to the counting room, the procedure I recommend is that the chief judge opens every ballot, looks at the ballot to determine that it is valid, it must be signed, it must be complete, and then reads the results out loud. The two counters both have a tally form, and the counters record the scores. I'm going to show you these pieces of paper in just 1 second. We double check everything. So you may even, especially if you have many contestants in a contest, you could have 8 easily at a division level. You're going to double check that you've read the ballot correctly and that the ballot counters have recorded the results correctly as read. Then we focus on the counting, the tally. And the tally is math. We're going to total up the numbers and write them at the bottom and see what we've got. Let's go to the forms. Okay, so hold on here 1 second. I want to show you a complete and correct ballot. All right, it's here. Let me go to the top. All right. Let me open it really fast. Okay, we're going to look at judge number 4 here. Judge number 4 has a blank. Let's make this bigger. Remember, judges, normally you write the contestant names in across the top, and I've done that on the judges 4 ballot. And then you would write in each of the scores for each of the categories under the judges' items. And Toastmasters has given us a very comprehensive set of criteria. They've assigned numeric values to make it easy. How you determine that you wish to fill out the scorecard is completely up to you, because judges, you do not reveal your scorecard to anyone. This remains in your possession at the contest. You are only tearing off this bottom section where it says detach and submit. Now, if judges 4 had not signed, there we go, no signature on this ballot, that ballot is automatically invalid. As I said earlier, the ballot counter can look at the ballot and say, Judge 4, please sign your ballot. And then it becomes a valid. But if the ballot makes it all the way to the counting room, now we're not in contact with the audience, we're off site. It has to be tossed. It cannot be considered a valid ballot. So this is just a reminder. Now, let's look at the tally sheet. So in my tally sheet, we've listed all of the contestants across the top, and it makes sense for the chief judge to prepare this in advance. And all you have to do in advance is list the contestants and list the judges. So these are the judges who served today. So Narendra Pandagula, Tian Lu, Pamela Johnson, and then we had judge number 4, who was someone else, didn't sign their ballot, and judge number 5. Okay, we have a secret tiebreaker judge, but we don't look at the tiebreaker scorecard at our ballot at all unless we need. When we read the ballots, each position has a numerical value. So number 1 gets 3 points. Winner number 2 gets 2 points, and winner number 3 gets 1 point. All other contestants end up with a 0. So our judges today, this is how they ranked our speakers. Pandagula had Cruz in first place, Stark in second place, liked the hot dog guy. That presentation was his third choice, and Edwards didn't make the cut. Chin did exactly the same scoring. Notice Brown has X's. Brown was the contestant that canceled. No scores. Johnson went in a different direction. She liked Cruz. She liked Charlie second, but she didn't like the mustard guy. She liked the Woodstock vibes. That was Edwards. So Edwards got a number 1. Judge 4 threw it out, all zeros. And then judge number 5 went Cruz, Stark, not mustard, went with Woodstock vibes. So down here at the bottom, we have a tie. First place unanimously goes to Glenda Cruz. I'm kind of telegraphing this in advance, so I'm taking it away from John. John normally would just see the results. He would not see this scoring. The chief judge keeps all the ballots and all of the tally sheet, and only the people in the counting room know what happened. We all have a duty of confidentiality. So counters and chief judges are not allowed to discuss the count either. We didn't see the scorecards, but we see the results. And so we can't turn around and say, Stark was just 1 point away from taking it all. It's all we can do is announce third, first, and second places. So in today's contest, Charlie Stark is contestant number 2, winner number 2, and then we have to apply the tiebreaker judge to 3 and 4. Let's look at the tiebreaker's ballot. This is the tiebreaker's ballot. Now, the tiebreaker also would score and keep the score privately, tear off the bottom, but notice here, the tiebreaker's ballot has all of the contestants. So the tiebreaker has to rank every contestant. The voting judges only rank contestants 1, 2, and 3, first place, second place, and third place. And the tiebreaker must sign the ballot and write their name in. So we're going to now take and apply the tiebreaker's ballot. Going back to the tally sheet, our tiebreaker scored Cruz number 1 and scored Charlie number 2, but that's not where the tie is. We don't even care about DeCruz and Stark. We're looking only here where we have a tie. The tiebreaker judge gave Mustard Guy 2 points. Third place, or I'm sorry, it was 1 point. Third place. And the tiebreaker scored Edwards with a 0, didn't like the Woodstock vibes. So now when we add this contest, when we add this column up, we would get, am I on the right? Yeah, I'm on the tally. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 right here. And Edwards would only get 1, 2. So our third place winner turns into everybody loves hot dogs, Mr. Mustard. All right. I'm going to stop the share. Do I have any questions about that process?
I see Robbie.
Okay.
Yes,
Robbie.
I do. And could you show the ballot sheet again? I just noticed a certain
Sure.
issue.
Okay. I was doing this fast, so no
No,
guarantees.
no. This is a more fundamental issue.
Okay.
You're usually giving out 3 awards,
Yes.
right? And the judges only get to pick 3 in their ballot, right?
Correct.
Okay. But it could very well be that the first person or second person gets disqualified based on time.
We're working on.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. And time disqualifications come right at the very beginning of the tally process. So when the chief judge goes to the room, the counting room, the chief judge would turn around and say there are no time disqualifications, or, you know what, Mr. Mustard here is disqualified for time. And then we would not be able to count any of, he would just lose out. And that would mean that third place would go to Edwards. Does that
Now,
answer?
Not quite, because first of all, I think what you didn't explicitly mention, but is that the judges are not supposed to consider the time when they do the judging.
Correct.
Okay. So effectively when, let's say, DeCruz has a time disqualification, the judges are effectively just giving the results for 2 people.
The judges are giving the results for 3 because
Right,
they
but-
do not
yes.
know the time.
True, sorry. But after the disqualification, they're only giving 2.
Yes, the voting judges would have only scored 2 because we're knocking out the third place contestant. So the method that I'm using is I'm applying all the judges with their tally, and then I'm taking away anyone who was disqualified.
Okay. So the third person has no votes, and it's exclusively based on the tiebreaker vote.
In this case, yes.
Okay. Although in case one judge had switched Edwards and Mustard or something, and somehow Edwards got into the ballot of one judge, then they automatically become. I'm pointing out the problem with limiting the judges to. I know we can't change it. The judges are limited to voting 3 people, and the end result is 3 people. But in between, somebody may be disqualified, and that's a fairly common occurrence because of timing issues.
Yes. Yes. And do you have another question, or are
No,
you
so
just simply looking for confirmation?
I was looking for confirmation that.
Yes, your interpretation of this is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And just one important point while we're talking about judges and stuff, I don't know that we mentioned it earlier, but at area and above, you want to have a certain number of judges, a minimum of 5. If you look in the rule books for specifics, it's usually try to have as many judges as there are clubs represented. But if you can't do that, then a minimum of 5 judges.
Yes. In addition to the number of judges, it increases at the division level to 7.
Okay.
Okay. And at the district level, it is 7 judges. Last year, most of the contests that I was involved with, we tried to staff 7 judges for every contest because there are last minute things that come up. Such as today, we had to substitute a judge because one of our judges was not able to be there in a timely fashion. So you have to kind of plan ahead and know who in the room would be eligible. If you're going to have problems with, I want to circle back to what John was talking about. in terms of, oh, and we have to get to the panel discussion. John was also talking about representation. One of the things you have to do in advance is you have to make certain that there is no conflict of interest with the judges and the contestants, and that if you have judges from the same clubs as the contestants, that's a problem. Judges from the same area. There's all kinds of combinations that we have to navigate. I'm going to stop and just simply suggest that you contact myself. You could also work with John, and then we will consult with any person who also needs to weigh in on this if we're determining a judge's eligibility. That's one of the advanced preparations before you even get to the room. Okay. All right. Normally what would happen is John would then receive the results, make the announcements. John, did you get to talk about protest?
No, I didn't.
Okay. We have no protest today, but John, why don't you address protest quickly, and we'll go to a very fast panel discussion.
Okay. So very quick, if there are protests, the only people that can protest, and there's very specific rules. If there is a time disqualification, the contest chair can disqualify one of the contestants. If somebody has a question based or a protest based on originality, what was the other criteria? Originality or mentioning one of the other contestants in their speech, then either a contestant or a judge may file a protest. The person accused or the person affected then has the right to meet with the judges, state their case, and then the judges will vote based on what they hear and make a determination whether or not that person should be disqualified. The results of the judges are final. There are no appeals. Also, at the end, once the contest chair says contest is over, there can be no more protests. The protests have to happen before the contest ends. And as I said, the only people that can make them are the voting judges and the contestants based on those two criteria. And the contest chair can disqualify someone for time if they go over time. Those are the only rules for protests.
Okay, thank you. Let's turn our attention to a panel discussion with the remaining time that we have. We may go 5 minutes beyond the 10:30 mark, simply because we did start a little tiny bit late. So the first question I have for our judges today is, how long have you been judging? Oh, John, you have a question?
One quick question. Thank you, Pamela. Protest must be made before the final results are announced also. So since we haven't announced the results yet, somebody could still protest. But
yes, yes.
At this point, once the once the finals are announced, protests are out.
Right. And we should just simply announce our winners. So John, do the honors, please.
Okay. So thank you. First off, we did have one disqualification for time. Our winners, third place was Sandra Edwards. Second place was Charlie Stark. And third place was Glenda Cruz. I'd like to congratulate all of our contestants for stepping out of their comfort zones and competing with us today, especially since this was just a mock contest,
Yes.
to take the time out of your day to help train others.
Right.
Special thanks to the judges, all the other officials, and thank you to everybody for helping make Area X contest go smoothly. With that, this contest is at an end, and we'll now move on to our Q&A session.
Yes.
We have a question
I
from
have one
Robbie.
question, quick question.
Yes, Robbie.
John, I wish your results matched what the ballot showed so that we
Well-
can trust it, but it did. That's okay.
Well, it did.
Glenn was winning. You made him third, right? But that's okay.
No.
But the jokes aside, my question is, can a time disqualification ever be protested?
No.
Okay.
No, that's one of the reasons why we have two timers to make sure that there's no disqualification there. And just so to answer or just make a statement about your first point, the way you read the results is you read the third place person first, then the second place person, then the first place person. And that's if there's three or more contestants. If there's only two contestants, then you would simply read the second place and the first place.
Okay.
Or if there's only one, then it's just the first place. So, because it could be you get to an area level and there's only one contestant from that area for the area contest. You still have to have the contest, but.
And you could still get disqualified. I've seen.
Yes,
that
you
happen.
could be disqualified.
Thanks.
Or
I've
for
seen-
not showing up or for any other things like that. So.
I've seen that at a club contest where one person participated and got disqualified. And they didn't
It's
really need to-
heartbreaking, but it happens.
Yeah.
It is heartbreaking.
If I can
Okay.
add real quickly, because I know where Ravi's question is coming from, but just remember with protests, if you follow the contest rule book, there's only those two reasons you can protest that John mentioned. And it had to do with originality. And thank you for showing that, John. And if a contestant uses another contestant in their speech. So those are the only protests that can be made. We have had situations where, remember, when you announce there was one or two disqualifications for time, you don't say who it was.
Right.
And then the announcement of the winners is done. So now you're at that point, you can't protest because the results have been announced. Yes, you can question, which I believe we did in one contest, about the time. And as John said, that's why we have multiple timers. Because if there is, when the chief judge sees there was a time disqualification by the primary timer, they also look at the secondary timer to be sure that they're in sync. So that confirms that, yes, this is correct. This person truly was disqualified. If that timing is very close, because remember, you have that 30 seconds, and the first timer says, they were 31 seconds, they look at the second timer to see if that person also got that little 1%, maybe 1 second. Maybe the second timer said, no, I got 130. So they were right on the dot. You give the benefit of the doubt to the contestant and they will not get disqualified.
Yeah.
Pamela,
Yeah.
quick question. Would the two timers be sitting next to each other so that they,
Yes,
they
yes,
will?
at
Okay.
the table.
Okay. Should they be far away?
No,
No,
Okay.
no,
they
don't
they
need-
they should both have timing devices and they both record times on their sheets, independent of each other.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, they
Okay.
don't check with each other during the contest. They just
Nope.
follow
No.
what their timing is.
Right.
And typically, the timer number one, the primary timer, would be the one that's dealing with the color cards.
Right.
The second one is just taking their notes and basing it off their timing device. Now,
Right.
just to what Pamela mentioned, I did have a case where I was chief judge in a contest, I think last year, where somebody did come back and ask about the time, and we did verify with both timers that yes, they were over by 10, 15 seconds, whatever it was. Not that it made a difference, because they asked after the contest was over. So even if there was a mistake, it wouldn't have been taken into account. But
Right.
in any case, okay, back to our Q&A with the judges. Or
Yes. One final comment. This is one of the reasons I highly recommend you have a printed copy of the rule book on hand at the contest. And I would tab the section on protest, because that is the thing that makes people nervous. When a problem comes up, you want to quickly open the page and say, okay, so what do we have to do here? And what are the reasons that, what are acceptable protests? We can help you with that.
Yeah.
Chan, I know that Chan, yes.
One last point on protest. That is something that you would cover with the contestants and the judges during the briefings beforehand to let them
Yes.
know that, like the contestants, if you want to make a protest, do it before this point in time. Otherwise,
And we will include that language in the briefing script.
Yep.
So you won't forget to tell your contest participants, both the judges and the contestants. Chin, I know you have a hard out, so I want to just ask you, how did you find your first time judging experience? Can you elaborate?
Oh yeah, it's very exciting. It's nice to know like how it works behind the scene because I signed up for the contest coming up in this January. So it's a first-hand experience. I really value it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Did you find that you were comfortable with the scorecard process?
Yes, very comfortable now.
Okay, good. Judges, I'm going to cut right to the chase and let's have a quick discussion about process. So, Pamela, I know you've been around in our district for many years and you've judged many contests. Can you elaborate a little bit about your process and any tips you might provide?
I don't know if that'll be helpful, but sure. I know in the earlier years, I was a little nervous about it. It took me a little longer to figure out scoring, which, again, 1 minute is a very short amount of time to judge. The more practice you have doing it, the quicker you are at it and identifying it. But what I had to learn, and it was really more about myself, is I had to learn to focus strictly on the criteria and try to block out those biases that I might have because I know the person, well, I've heard the person speak before. I don't know them, but I've heard them speak before, or I know, oh, they've won many contests in the past. I have to put those things aside. I also learned that I needed to judge every individual contestant as an individual and not compare it to the first or the second person that has already spoken. So those are some of the key things that I learned over time to manage a lot better. Some people have difficulty separating that, but like I said, the more practice you get, the better you get at that. And the other thing I want to mention is that I look at the audience. How is that person resonating with the audience? If it's a humorous speech, are people laughing? Are they enjoying it? If it's tall tales, do you see that energy where people are excited? Because part of that scoring has to do with how the audience is receiving that message. It's not totally me. I might have a different sense of humor than somebody else, or I might like a subject or not like a subject, but I need to see how the audience is receiving that message. So you kind of have to look around too at others to see, are they enjoying it? Are they engaged? Is this something that the general public, meaning the audience at the time, appreciates? That's my advice.
Okay, thank you. Narendra, can you elaborate a little bit about your process and any tips you might want to share?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My tip is I fold it so that I fold the ballot paper or cover the previous number of scores so that it won't influence me judging the new person. That's what I do for sure. And the second thing is as the time approaches, I will start counting that so that I won't wait after the time for a long time waiting there, the totals. So that's those two I do so that I won't hold up the time. But as Pamela mentioned, it's always like I take Toastmasters scorecard as a standard and then go according to the numbers. I also
Okay.
watch public reaction. If they need, in case of questions, how people are reacting. In case of jokes, how people are putting the things there. How those things. Other than I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Vani, please share anything, any kind of tips you'd like to contribute and a little bit about how you proceed to score in a competition.
Hello, everyone. I listen courteously, I consider soberly, and I decide impartially. And also comprehension. Did the presentation help the audience understand whether it was clearly, concise, or legible? And also I divide my page into 8 parts. And I consider them as the audience engagement. Was it inspiring? Was it enthusiastic? Enthusiasm created in the audience. And also I use 4 different things: head, heart, hands, and humor. For the head, make me think creative ideas that the speaker gave. Heart, can cause the effect, characters, and the action. And the humor, make me smile, humorous story of funny quotes. Trigger, emotions, imaginable, relatable, or a compelling story or a question. So I divide my page into different things. That's what, and understand the contest rules. Brain processes faster than the speaker speaks. You have to make your brain work faster than what the speaker speaks. And did the intention, what did I hear? Did the intention get to your attention of the purpose of the speech? Delivery, understand what they speak. Vocal variety, pace, pause, filler words. And how did you feel? Accomplish its purpose. Speech, was it informative? Was it persuasive? And then the focus. Focus on the content, not on the speaker. Sometimes it may be bias. Can be exposure, direct, indirect messages, rewards, peers, peace, family, education, ideas, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Vani. I think we've covered all of the basics today. John, you have some final words you'd like to contribute?
Well, just one thing. Mike had a question that we wanted to get to before we close.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know we're running out of time, but I really appreciate the comments that were made about the tiebreaker judge. And I want to just go back and revisit that. If we take Ravi's initial comment to its extreme, let's say there's 6 contestants. The judges agree on the 3 winners, but all 3 winners are disqualified. Then the contest is going to be based entirely on the tiebreaker judge, and you never go back and look at the original judge's ballots. Is that correct?
Well, you are applying the tiebreaker's score to whatever is still on the sheet. So do the order of operations. First of all, do the math. Do the math. Then start disqualifying for time. So you do all the math, ignoring the time disqualifications. And then you come in and you go, oh, contestant 1, overtime. Contestant 2, undertime. 3, 4, 5, 6. And that leaves you with whatever's left. So you really aren't discarding the voting judges' ballots. You use the math, use the sheet. It's black and white, and then cross off the names because they didn't make the cut.
But in that scenario, though, the judges' votes would all be not counted. It would all be the tiebreaker.
In essence,
my whole question is, we never go back and look at the original ballots of the judges. Is that correct? We only take their official ballot, not what they put. Okay.
Yeah, because the ballot counter, we never see the scorecards. Okay. Yes. We never see the scorecards. We only have that first, second, and third place. If you have 6 contestants, you don't even know what the judges, how they scored. You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay. If all of the top 3 are disqualified, then effectively the voting judges' work is off the table. And you're absolutely right. It comes down to the tie-breaking judge. I hope I am never involved in that scenario.
Okay.
Because the audience will be going, their minds will be exploding as to how this happened. Because, even though they're not voting judges, our Toastmaster population, we have a sense of what is very good, qualified, highly effective speaking and what is not. So if you have some beginner speakers who were at the end of the line and we disqualified all the good ones, the audience is going to go, what happened? But we do have to announce, because the chief judge comes back to the contest chair and the contest and says there were no time disqualifications, or there were 3 time disqualifications. We do not give the names. We simply say there were 3 time disqualifications. And then we announce the winner. So the audience is left to kind of do the math in their heads, and they are going to go, what happened? But, I worked a contest where the target speaker started over 3 times in the speech. Even after the contest chair said, no, you may not start over, she started over anyhow. So my point is that the audience is also pretty aware of the timing, because they're intelligent. Toastmasters are experienced. So I don't want to work that contest. Don't be calling me. John, you have to go to that one. All right. Thank you so much for an insight playing along scenario this morning. I think we discussed some very interesting questions, things I hadn't really thought about. And you learn from the questions each and every time we get together like this. I won't take up more of your time. Thank you for your Saturday morning. Know that John and I are available to you. My contact information is on TM83. John's is not, but we can get you to John. Don't worry. And we will start seeing you in person in January. More things coming for those of you who are in contest management. Send me your questions, problems. I love it. We're going to collect it and put it all together in really sound references this year. Have a great day.